Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about the demand of Pakistan regarding taking some concrete global action by all the concerned countries to end the misery of the Kashmiri people. We'll also be talking about the upcoming Indian elections and its impact. We'll also be talking about the changing demographics. As you know that we've been doing a lot of programs in Kashmir, and especially we've raised this concern about the change in demographics. This is exactly what the Israelis have done in the occupied areas of Palestine, and this is what is happening in Kashmir also. Then the extremist policies of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the overall concern regarding the elections in Kashmir, where it seems that only BJP is contesting the election and none other than BJP is basically participating, whether it's People's Democratic Alliance, PDA, or you talk about Hurriyat or other leaders, nobody is taking part. They have technically boycotted. But still, you'll see that the percentage of voters, that has gone pretty high. What is the reason for that? Primarily, the first reason about the changing demographics. So they have been able to do it. To talk about this issue, we have with us in our studio. Let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us on my right as Brigadier retired Salim Kamar Bhatt Saab, Senior Defence Analyst, sir. Thank you very much. We also have with us Masood Gilani Sahab. Again, his new introduction is a Senior Journalist from AFP. Sir, thank you very much. And we'll be joined in shortly by Ambassador Omar Khan Ali Sherzai Sahab. He is on his way. Brigadier Sahab, let's start off from you, sir. First of all, when we talk about this concrete global response, or we talk about some action taken by certain countries to look into the affairs, what exactly is going on in Kashmir? For example, we have raised this issue on multiple fronts, multiple platforms, whether it's UNGA or otherwise. But it seems that nothing is happening because maybe it's the Indian influence over certain countries, maybe it's the kind of lobby they have which can actually persuade certain authorities and certain bodies as far as their decision making is concerned. So, sir, if this is the case, then what needs to be done now, sir? Because they have changed the demographic. It's not changing anymore. They've already done it. This is exactly what the plan was, and they wanted to linger on. This was the eventual result that we were all expecting.
Absolutely. I agree with you fully what you just said in the introduction. You see, Indians have very effectively utilized for the last 70 years. They have been buying time from the international community. As you know, there are 18 United Nations Security Council resolution on Kashmir, which call for giving the right of plebiscite to the people of Kashmir, and India has constantly been rejecting all the resolutions. So they have been able to bluff the bolt very effectively, and credit goes to their policies of the government, of their approach, global. But what needs to be done, that is what we need to focus. I think the new government has taken a very good new start, starting with the recent UN General Assembly session, where Sushma Swaraj used the podium for bashing Pakistan for the time allotted to her to speak about many things, but her main focus remained on Pakistan bashing, which had more to do with the internal politics of India. The other point that you touched upon in your introduction was that India is trying to change the demography in Kashmir. I think this flows out from their overall strategy of annexing Indian occupied Kashmir and integrating that part of Kashmir with the mainland India. So that revolves around the demographic engineering, which follows three main steps. The first step is that they are trying to abrogate Article 370 and 35A by amending the Indian Constitution, whereas the Jammu and Kashmir High Court has already ruled that from March 2018, Section 370 has become permanent, and the special status given to the Kashmiri people, that has become permanent. So that is a very difficult job for them. The second step they are doing is that they are settling a lot of non-Muslim, the Hindu Pandits. They are making special...
Non-Kashmiris into Kashmir.
Yeah, non-Kashmiris and primarily non-Muslims. And they are the Pandit colonies they are making. They have passed special legislation for that. They are making special Sainik colonies. Sainik means the military colonies. They are settling around 10,000 retired military personnel in various places. Budgam Air Base, they have around 179 canal land given. They are making a special colony there. 10,000 people are there. Then they are settling the western Pakistan refugees who are in India. They are bringing from all over the India, then settling them into Kashmir and giving them the status of the citizen of Indian occupied Kashmir. The fourth thing they are doing is they are giving a lot of land for industrialization of Jammu and Kashmir, and they are giving land to the Indian entrepreneur. They are making industries there in order to have total control.
So they've done all they wanted to do, and they've done it very brilliantly, I would say.
Right, they have made use of the time that they got, rather they bought, and unfortunately, Pakistan has not been able to do much. It is more to do with our internal politics, the weaknesses that we have.
So we were busy fighting the war on terror for the last 18 years almost, and
Pakistan as a nation has to do a lot in order to raise the Kashmir issue in front of the international community. United Nations General Assembly is the best forum that is available to Pakistan because United Nations Security Council resolutions are there. And I think our Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi made very effective speech, and that in national language in Urdu to really rebut Sushma Swaraj, who made her speech in Indian language. So I think both people of India and Pakistan were the best listener for both the speeches. And I'm sure the saner minds in India would have taken some leaf of wisdom from the speech of Shah Mahmood Qureshi, and there will be some sympathy for the people of Kashmir even within India, because it is not only Kashmir. There are around 30 insurgency, a very active one, which are calling for the independence in other states like Nagaland, Mizoram, Tripura, Bodoland. All these states are asking for independence. So Kashmir is a sort of problem. If India sits down to discuss that with Pakistan, they are going to have the similar outcome in other states.
That's why they're reluctant and they're afraid to do so. Anyway, sir, coming back to you, Masroor Saab. Now, first of all, sir, I'm sure you've been writing a lot about this particular issue, but now it seems that whatever the Indians wanted, they have achieved it to quite some extent, sir.
Yeah, the reason being that they are the bigger country than us, and they are, outside world sees them as a huge economy and democracy. And also there's a large number of Indian citizens.
The diaspora is very strong, yeah.
And they are now in a very important decision-making places in these capitals of these countries, the big countries which matter and which matters where their votes matter in the United Nations, or their they have veto powers. And another thing is that since the world focus is not in the South Asian region anymore, like it has been on Afghanistan, the Southwest Asia, and then now the focus has altogether shifted towards Middle East after this Syrian war and
crisis,
crisis there, civil war going on, and there are big powers involved like Russia and United States. So the world focus is on Middle East, and these like South Asia and Kashmir, it is no more on the world's agenda, as you say. You see this the current situation for the past many years. Like
so don't you think this is actually the problem of the UN? I mean, it's a body. Let me not say it's a useless body, but the point is that they only do what they want to do. For example, if there was a problem in Indonesia, so they ended up sorting it out. If there was a problem in Sudan, for that matter, they ended up dividing Sudan into North and South. But this particular issue and Palestine issue, I think one of the longest pending issues in the UN, nobody's bothered. And look at the way those two extremist nations, I would say, India and Israel, are handling those poor people there, killing them, kidnapping them, you name it, and the torture is in their books.
Yeah, again, it comes down to, again, the countries which are influential in world politics, the big powers, wherever they tilt towards that issue, if they take up some issue or they are behind, like in East Timor, it was done because it was also dispute, and there was a election was held there, and the matter was decided. Similarly, this we have case in Kashmir, like as you said that since 1948 these resolutions for a plebiscite are pending, and I mean nobody is moving. Like the United Nations itself is can't move, like when there are like huge powers with huge influence there. They will not allow it to come on the top agenda of the United Nations. Only if you see a few countries, like we have support from, we have at the moment, but not like a huge or a big power which can, has very effectively come to support us in the United Nations. So this is, I mean, has been going on for a very long time, and what we need to do is we need to step up our effort. Like the Kashmir Committee, traditional doing will not make any difference. So I think with the new government there are some hopes that they will reactivate this Kashmir Committee or Parliamentary Kashmir Committee, and also there should be voice of people of Pakistan behind it. Like there should be like a movement, like I can say, not less than short of a movement should be for the right of self-determination of Kashmiri
Yes, sir,
people.
do you think a movement, I mean, we witnessed post-Burhan Wani's martyrdom, that there was a lot of resistance and they were at the optimum level. Look at the number of people who were blinded and killed and injured. But the Indians were able to control that also by the use of force.
Allow me to slightly differ and give a different perspective what Jilani Sahab is saying. I don't think the Kashmir issue is that neglected by the international community as we are trying to perceive. One aspect is, which you just highlighted, that Kashmir freedom movement has gone to the level where it was never before in the last 2 years, ever since Shahadat of Burhan Wani. It has got international attention. See what is happening in Europe. See the flag marches. See the buses, the taxis, the paints and all that, even in America. So world attention is there. World knows that. Secondly, Pakistan government perhaps in the recent past is used all forums to raise this issue at all possible levels in bilateral and multilateral modes. Thirdly, as I said in the beginning, in the UN forum, we have highlighted this issue. I think the main focus of the speech by Foreign Minister was on Kashmir. What we need to do, that is where Jilani Sahab is very right, saying that on the floor of the Pakistan Parliament, on the floor of Pakistan Senate, on both the houses, this issue needs to be discussed. What we see day in, day out on the floor of our parliament is very petty politics taking place. So I think our parliamentarian, being representative of the people of Pakistan, should be discussing Kashmir issue. And they should pass a resolution, and that is what Jilani was saying, that our political elite need to take the lead on this issue before we start asking the international community to speak about it. First, let our own parliamentarian who are representing every nook and corner of Pakistan speak on this issue. Feel the pain that the Kashmiris are undergoing. Feel the smell of the blood that is flowing in Kashmir. Since 1990, almost 100,000 people have been killed. More than 100,000 people have been maimed. Their limbs have been chopped. See the number of orphans, see the number of widows, see the number of custodial killings. 700,000 Indian occupied Kashmir forces are day in and day out under the legal cover of POTA and PSA. They are carrying out brutal massacre and real Holocaust.
They have legal cover basically.
So for me, the irony and the most painful thing is that people even within Pakistan are not very aware about it. So who's responsible for this? I would hold the government responsible for this. The government should raise and create the awareness level within Pakistan, spread it out to the Pakistan diaspora. As Indians are propagating for their country and hiding all their atrocities, at least our diaspora, our government, our foreign office, our mission abroad should highlight this issue, chest open, gloves removed, bare knuckle. We got to highlight this issue. So we should not be feeling any shame that we should be speaking for the people of Kashmir. It is a human cause. It is a humanitarian crisis.
But looking at the kind of looking at the magnitude of the problem primarily.
Right.
When you look at Kashmir and the issues and the killings and the kind of life they're having and the miseries and the problems, and I mean it's unbelievable. I mean, and whenever the international community wants to send a commission or something of that sort, the Indians always reject it. Right. We always say, okay, it's fine, good enough. You go to Pakistani Kashmir and you'll see what's going on out there. But sir, nobody has ever been able to persuade. I think is a very lighter word. I mean, nobody has ever been able to convince, or exert that kind of pressure where the Indians should do it. Do you think they are just waiting for the right time? Then after that, they'll say, okay, come over. Let's see. This is the result, and we have done it.
I recently read the report by the High Commissioner of Human Rights, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, the President
about a month ago, yeah.
Right? Michelle, who is probably a former President of Chile. She is now heading that. See her report. She has called upon three things. One, that the human right violation must stop, and there should be a special commission by the UN established in order to investigate the human right violation in Kashmir. Second, they have called upon India to give the right of plebiscite to the people of Kashmir. So the spirit of the latest human right violation inside Kashmir is exactly what is the UN resolution on Kashmir. So this is 2018 we are talking about. You must have seen the last High Commissioner reading out the report on Kashmir and then crying. The social media have been showing that. So it is not all that ignored. But let me give it a new angle to talk about Kashmir issue. If Kashmir issue is considered by the international community as a bilateral issue, not a global issue, which is a global issue as in my perspective, because it's a human issue. It is not about territory. It is about giving self-determination right to the people of Kashmir who have suffered atrocities for the last over 70 years. So, if it is bilateral, considered bilateral, then it is the dispute between two nuclear states. So, Kashmir essentially becomes a nuclear flashpoint. So, even by that standard, even by that definition, it becomes the most dangerous flashpoint in the world. So, world community has to wake up. What are they waiting for? Are they waiting for some nuclear exchange taking place? When it's beyond thought. I'm not saying that it would happen, but I'm saying
it could lead to
that
anything.
If there is some big dispute, ultimately Pakistan, India have fought 4 wars on Kashmir. Now, those wars were not fought under the nuclear umbrella. Now they are. So, if there is any clash, so you see, no war takes place by any calculation. All wars happen by miscalculation. So that is where I think UN got to wake up. And our missions abroad, especially in the UN, in America and in Europe, they got to wake up. And they got to make sure that the world community wakes up. We have to do everything possible. And for me, the most important role has to be played by Pakistan intelligentsia, Pakistan academia, and above all, Pakistan media. We have over 80 channels showing very, very trivial, useless stuff in 24 hours. Can't they spare at least 1 hour in 24 hours highlighting Kashmir issue? Where is our nationalism? Where is our nationalistic spirit? Where is our human rights spirit? So our 80 channels, if they spare 1 hour and show what is happening in Kashmir to the world, I think they would...
So there has to be a consistent and constant effort on regular basis where, you could...
It has to be a national effort.
We have to take it as a national cause.
At the moment, see, it is only PTV discussion in Kashmir.
Primarily, very few programs, unless until something happens in Kashmir where in one day they end up killing 70, 80 people, then it becomes a story, otherwise
so
no.
It is just one-liner news coming.
I
but
totally agree
Kashmir has to be raised by all our national media, print, electronic, social media, as a national cause. If we can give any sport to Kashmir, it's a political sport. It's a diplomatic sport. It is the media sport that we can give.
Absolutely. So I'll cut back to you. So now let's have one very important issue raised by Brigadier Saab here is like regarding media and then the think tanks. There are a lot of think tanks in Islamabad, at least which I know of. They're working on this particular issue. Mishal herself is running one, and so the cases with so many Sasi, for example, they're doing a lot of work, and a couple of other ones, even Jinnah Institute for that matter, of Shari Rahman. But role of media. Intelligence question, definitely I'll put it to you, sir, but role of media, I don't think, sir, this issue has been neglected over a period of time, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately, you see this politics have dominated agendas of our private television news channels especially, and 80% of their programs we will see, I mean, it's more than 90%.
Sometimes the topics are so useless.
Yeah.
That you
and they just bring up like statements of one leader, or and then create a controversy around it, and then call 3-4 participants and they speak about it. That
without including
he said,
any
she
results.
said, and it's again blame game, and just it's trying to get more ratings.
Yeah.
So they are mostly concerned about politics. These other human issues, Kashmir is, I think, the as the Brigades have said, it's a
even social issues like water issue, for example.
Yeah.
So many other problems which are a real threat. I would say, whenever we talk about national security of Pakistan, we only think about the internal and the external security, the threats from within and from outside. Water security, food security, climate change.
Yes.
I mean, everything is linked and related, and these are so important. Unfortunately, we never talk about
population explosion.
Population, for that matter, yes, sir.
Yeah, it
One of the
all
highest,
your planning, and your resources cannot match, the growing population. And the thing is that media is quite, first of all, media is, our media is urban centric. It doesn't focus on people outside big cities.
That's right.
And it only takes up the issues which are like, even if it takes up like some other issues, some media take up, but it's a very marginal level, at very superficial level, and it goes up for like once a while. So there's no follow up and nothing like a sustained programming over the social issues. So this is the huge problem, and that they are not speaking about Kashmir. Kashmir is maybe a news bulletin, in the news you can see the Kashmir just a headline, and so many people killed. Just, I mean, it is also desensitize the people, like 10 killed in Kashmir, that's all. Nothing, I mean, what's the human catastrophe behind it? What are the sufferings of people which need to be highlighted there? What human rights violation, the people who have been blinded by pellet guns, and the youth whose future there is at stake, and they are just fighting for their, right. They are not like India is portraying them as insurgents, and to the outside world, India is portraying it as it is fighting an insurgency. So this is not an insurgency. This is a legitimate freedom struggle.
Yeah.
And Kashmiris, they have their right, like any human, any human being. He has right to be governed by its own wishes, their own wishes. So Kashmir, like all rest of the world, they also need this right to self-determination, and which is already given by the international community via United Nations. So, I mean, this is like 70 years have passed, and they are just shirking their responsibility, there are manipulations, and then there are propaganda, and with the lobbying and everything, like the big power play is going on. And but the story which does not, which the world is not seeing is the human suffering and the losses, and
because I spoke to so many people from Kashmir, the Hurriyat leaders, they always sort of try to concentrate on the major issue of Kashmir. That, see, this is what happened, and in 1948 we went the Indians went to UN, and this is the issue, this is how it should be handled. It makes a lot of sense, but sir, recently there was something very, because if you haven't been able to sort out this issue during the last 70 years, don't expect it to be done now when you don't have great terms with USA, with India for that, but even with your neighbors, to be very honest. I will not use the word isolated, but if you look at what happened during the SAARC summit, I mean, they were supposed to come, they did not, on the best with the Indians. So that means that Indians have a lot of influence, whether you talk about Bhutan, you talk about Bangladesh, you talk about Afghanistan for that matter, and smaller countries in the region as well. But what they believed in was that, at least forget about the issue of Kashmir. Let's talk about the human rights violations. Talk about these sensitive issues, people being killed, women being raped, people being blinded, as earlier mentioned by Brigadier Saab, limbs being chopped, hands being chopped. So that is something of prime concern. This is exactly what you do when you go to the Human Rights Commission in the United Nations in Geneva, where you show those pictures that this is what is happening, sir. People stop and ask you questions. Then they get to know about what is Kashmir all about. So otherwise, you'll see Gandhi Saab right there, right next to the building, and you'll say, oh, what a man, man of peace.
at different forums, Pakistan is doing its bit, whatever it can. But if you see the people of Kashmir now, the freedom struggle has gained momentum, because now people of Kashmir, they are now fed up with this this what do you call it, the pressure tactics by India, and now they've seen that it is they have to take it up, this movement, and you are seeing a spike in the freedom struggle, and that's why
But
India
sir, there was a spike, but it faded away.
Yeah, it happens. These movements in the life of this movement. If you study other liberation movements, these such phases come and go and ups and highs. But this is like unprecedented. Such level of what you call it, the momentum of this movement is unprecedented, and that I think is the way forward as well. Because diplomacy is one thing, what freedom struggle can achieve, like the expression you see that elections turnout, recent election, local government elections which were held after 13 years, the turnout has now, even if these are the local body election, but still they have they tell a story. Like the turnout, if you see in the valley and in the Jammu is a very big turnout in elections, and it is opposite in the other areas, the valley, if you see. So it's an expression, like even the pro-Indian parties, National Conference and the Democratic Party, they have boycotted. And again, and they're also against this undoing of Article 35A, which gives special status to Kashmir. Special status to Article 370, but Article 35A bars people from other regions to become the permanent residents of Kashmir. And but again, India is trying to emulate or follow the sinister designs which we see by Israel. By settling
exactly, they just copied the formula and implemented it so well. Now, sir, role about the media that has been discussed, but Lord, you earlier mentioned role of intelligence. Intelligence agencies, so what sort of a role do you think they can play? A positive role?
No, I didn't say intelligence agencies. I said intelligentsia.
Intelligentsia, okay.
Right. So intelligence agencies, if you talk about that, virtually India has applied the strategy given to them by the RAW. It is not Indian State Department or Foreign Office that is dealing with Pakistan. When it comes to Kashmir policy, it is given to them by RAW. I was reading an interview printout by A.S. Daulat, who just co-authored the book Chronicle with Asad Durrani, General Asad Durrani. I was reading his interview. See his state of mind. You listen to the interviews of Narendra Modi and Sushma Swaraj. All three are talking about what is the language of Ajit Doval. So they call it Doval strategy that they have applied on Pakistan. So India is dealing with Pakistan, including Kashmir issue, according to a strategy. It could be a strategy of 1,000 cuts. It could be a strategy of double squeeze, taking advantage of the situation in Kashmir. See how many proxies India has created in Pakistan.
That's what they call offensive defense.
Right. So Ajit Doval called it offensive defense, but then when he comes to explain that to his officers, I heard his speech when he was talking to officers of RAW. So he says that I am going to apply 1,000 cuts on Pakistan. I am going to do in Balochistan what Pakistan has done in Kashmir. I am going to do this in tribal areas of Pakistan, what Pakistan is doing in Kashmir. I am going to turn the tables on them. Well, Pakistan is not capable of doing anything physical in Kashmir. See the kind of the best fence system in the world. The physical fence, the electronic fence, monitored by drones, by radars, by
landmines,
reinforced, manned by 700,000 troops. There is no possibility of somebody crossing, right? So it is a huge propaganda that has been applied in order to fool the whole world. Why don't Indian allow UN or other journalists to enter Indian occupied Kashmir, and we do allow people to go right up to the line of control because we have nothing to hide. We are not telling lies, so we open our gates and doors to the people who can come and see for yourself how Indian forces are killing innocent civilians along the line of control and the working boundary. Every day there is an incident, they bomb, they shell innocent Kashmiris on Pakistani side. So what brutalities are they committing in Kashmir? That is total absolute blackout. The internet is closed, the press is closed, journalists can't go anywhere. So this is the kind of blackout applied. Second is that proxies among Balochistan sub-nationalists, in Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, then Jaish-e-Mohammed, then using soil of Iran, you know Gulbashan Jadav's story, the whole nation knows that. You know Prakhad Sharma who burned Samjhauta Express.
Yes,
people shouldn't have forgotten Surabjit, who was given death sentence, is in Pakistani prison. See, all confessional statements are public. They have confessed how many thousands of people they have killed by sabotage and espionage in Pakistan. So India is a state sponsoring terrorism in Pakistan. India is a state which has unleashed terrorism in Kashmir. So why are we mincing our words? Why aren't we telling the world in those many plain words that India is a state sponsoring terrorism not only in Pakistan but in Kashmir and in other countries of SAARC? See what they have done in Nepal, what are they doing in Bhutan, in Sri Lanka. Have people forgotten what happened in Sri Lanka? They were trying to annex Sri Lanka. Who was supporting the Tamils in Sri Lanka?
Indians.
Right. So
Tamil Tigers,
the countries of SAARC are afraid of this shark within SAARC. So India is a shark for them. So they can't pick up the curry and stand in front of them. They have
to smaller countries other than Pakistan.
Find a middle ground. The only country that can
either
stand.
Some of them are landlocked and they can't go.
We are the only country who can stand with chin up and chest out. Okay, here we are. Try to eat us. We'll give you a
primarily that is the reason the Indians have
So
issues
this
with
is
us,
a language that the world would understand. That is the flashpoint we go to pay attention. It is a human catastrophe that needs to be addressed.
So human rights issue is the primary issue. Now, sir, another very important point. If you remember when President Barack Obama took charge in 2008, 9 January, but the elections were won in 2008 for the first term. I remember he did talk about Guantanamo Bay. He did talk about Afghanistan. He did talk about Kashmir also. Right. But later on, whatever the philosophy or the policy of the Americans is in Afghanistan, it changes according to the time. Earlier they wanted to vacate, now they want to stay. But when you talk about South Asia policy, we all know that that was one of the terrible policies ever made by the Americans, I mean, which is not at all acceptable to us. But, sir, Obama couldn't do anything regarding Kashmir. And on top, when Donald Trump took charge, he blamed the freedom fighters and made them look as if they are the terrorists. So anybody with a gun is a terrorist for them, no matter what actually he's doing. So that's a mindset, that concept, because every time, every country would keep war on terror or terrorism as the top priority. Even the Indians, I mean, the moment they start talking to you, they say, okay, now let's talk about Kashmir a little later, but let's talk about terrorism. Though they are the terrorism sponsoring agents all over the region, I would say. But unfortunately, they make us look bad every time, sir.
Yeah, if you remember when Donald Trump took charge, initially he tweeted that he will be helping India, Pakistan
sort out the issues and all,
sort out their issues, and he was ready to offer his good offices so that to bring two countries closer and resolve their differences. But after that, I mean, as you said, the stance changed, because I think the Indian lobby is very strong in US, and they are very, I mean, they are huge in numbers as well. So they also are have this voting power, you can say, like they are big lobby. I mean, as a well, not lobby, but the vote bank, and also it's a matter of priorities as well. Like with Pakistan, also, when the relationship between Pakistan and United States, they are always, we are talking about the resetting the relations. So it means they had gone to a level where there was a freeze. So when a computer or something system freezes, you have to reboot it or reset it. So I think this resetting and the reloading of this whole gamut is taking very long time, and it will be now at very, very lowest ebb. The relationship between Pakistan and United States is. So, I mean, there are now efforts being, diplomacy is picking up, like Mr. Pompeo visited here, our foreign minister also met him at the sidelines, and also they had a one-on-one meeting.
But I don't think we should be expecting US to play any positive role in resolution of Kashmir dispute at all. We are looking at a wrong guy and a wrong country as somebody who would mediate between India and Pakistan. One, India would never allow any third country to come in between.
They say it's a bilateral issue.
Right?
Yeah,
so they want to keep it bilat because 70s of bilat has suited them. Why we could not involve the third country? For example, China could be involved as a third country because they also have a dispute in Ladakh and northeast border with India. They have fought a war in 1962 in Nifa, northeast frontier region. They gave a bloody nose to India 62. So that dispute is still there. Yeah, so if you ask me, Ladakh being part of Indian occupied Kashmir, so other than India, Pakistan, people of Kashmir, the fourth stakeholder should be China, who should be actually looking for some resolution of this dispute, because Chinese don't want to involve in any regional dispute, because if they have to constantly focus on their economy, they would not like to get entangled in any local dispute, because that would be put a brake on their constant ascent. So they would not like to go into a descent mode at all. So that could be a fourth stakeholder. If they are ready to do that, that is for the Chinese to decide. I am sure they must be giving it a cool thought. Because if there is any dispute between India and Pakistan, ultimately China has to get involved. So Chinese would be very much interested in sitting on the table and doing something, but all depends on acceptance by the Indians. Pakistan would be ready to do that, but perhaps India would be least interested in that. So what is the option left with us? What other country could do that? Or could Russia do that? Probably they wouldn't be interested in doing that, especially when they are getting billions of dollars of trade, say for S-400. Why should they be backing up Pakistan or anything? So they wouldn't be interested. Rather, it suit them. Defense industries of Russia, China, or America, or European countries thrive on the disputes which are there on the globe. So expecting any third country to come and do some positive thing, I think it's
it doesn't make sense.
This is a dream which is not likely to realize.
Right.
So what are we left with? The option is the UN forum. If UN fails to do anything positive for Kashmir and Palestine, and even Syria now, or Afghanistan, if
so we
UN
all
can't
do
that,
know about these
please
strengths
allow
of
me
the
to- allow me
Israelis
to
and the
finish my,
Indians within the United States of America. I
said-
mean, you look at any of the think tank, you will not find even a single think tank without Israelis or Indians in there. You will not find, people who are just average. You're talking about real brains, head of departments on major universities, whether it's chemistry, whether it's economics, whether it's physics, Mr. Gupta, Mr. Shankar. This is the reality, sir.
So, sir,
And the kind of Indian diaspora, I'll just give you one example. So when Narendra Modi was supposed to address the Indian community in USA, right when he won the elections, the front line seats, the front row, per seat was sold for $50,000. One seat, sir.
Yep.
So this is the kind of strength the Indians have there.
we
So
don't
what
have
can we
to
do?
Faisal, I think we don't have to feel small for that. No, let me.
But the reality should be kept in mind. That's what I believe in.
No, let me give the reality, why this reality is there. It's a very good point that you have given. But let me finish first what I was saying. That UN is the only forum which is available to Pakistan. So instead of wasting our energies here and there, we should constantly raise our voice more forcefully, more loudly, try to win more allies within the General Assembly and raise this issue more forcefully. Then use our diplomatic missions abroad to raise this issue more forcefully. Having said that, now come to your point. India is now where you see India and we feel, constrained or somewhat jealous. Rather feeling jealous, we may take a late start, but we got to take a start. India took this start in 1990. When we were fighting jihad in Afghanistan, India was fighting this jihad all over the world. They were sending their students abroad on scholarship in thousands. Go, do your master, do your PhDs, get doctorates, get the job there, get married there, find some job, do the most trivial thing and rise. So they have risen in the last 35, 38 years. So they have traveled this distance in 4 decades. So if we have to be there where India is today, We will take that much time. We don't have a dearth of talent. We have much more talented.
But we wasted a lot of time,
right?
sir. That
is a
something
very
of prime
good pointer
concern.
from you, Faisal. I appreciate that. But I think this pointer has to be picked up by the government. That now pick up, say, 10,000 students, instead of wasting your energies, get hold of the private sector and tell them, okay, you sponsor 1,000 students, you sponsor 1,000 students, send them abroad. Do their advanced studies and be where Israelis and Indians are. There is no shortcut to rise to this level.
Takes time, but takes a lot of effort, a lot of courage, and a lot of commitment
America,
also.
I have been going to America in the last 10 years very frequently. I have seen all the departments. It's very frustrating to see right from the staffers in both houses of the Congress, all staffers are Indian. If there are 100 staffers,
Nikki Haley is Indian.
Right.
I mean, top of their main people who are covering the White House and the UN, and they're all Indians?
There are Indian governors.
Indian Americans?
There are governors now in US. There are now 4 ambassadors, Indian origin, who are there. Then there is one Under Secretary of State, Nisha Desai Deswal. Then you mentioned Nikki Haley, who just resigned, who is aspiring to be next president election, although she is denying. So I appreciate, I clap for them. They work 40 years for the nation. What have we done and what have our governments done?
That's a $1 million question. Now, sir, what have we done? We've done 3 things. We have given them the diplomatic support. We have given them the political support. And we have also used another word that's called moral support. Now, these 3 supports are enough, sir? Or whatever has been done within the given parameters, was that effort enough, fruitful, or could have yielded results, sir? Or a lot more needs to be done?
Yeah, a lot more needs to be done. As I already said, that we should step up our effort. Like, we know what we want to do, but we are not doing it very effectively. You know, like, it's not a rocket science that they have good brains. We have now very young, talented people. I think we should have a top level body with these expert minds coming together and devise a strategy or revisit what we have been doing in the past year and why it's not working and what needs to be done now in 2018 and what is the way forward. And there should be like also we don't have any like we have a chairman Kashmir committee, but I think there should be some other mechanism. Like,
that was just
like have you seen
that mission, I think, was created to facilitate Maulana Fazlur Rahman, just give him the status of a federal minister and live here forever in Islamabad and just have free lunches all the time.
In the diplomatic world, things are changing very fast. Like there is now many countries have, like United States has special envoy on Afghanistan and Pakistan. China has now a special envoy. Germany has a special envoy for this region.
The envoy for Pak Afghan?
Yes.
You know the guy?
Yeah.
So?
And we should have also our own, like as very talented.
So when we see the Americans, sending an individual, Zilmay I'm talking about, he's in Afghan, basically, I mean, but served there as an ambassador of US, now is there, and because he was in Pakistan a few months back when they were holding a very important meeting, and you could tell the mindset of that individual. So he's somebody who's absolutely anti-Pakistan. It's a reality.
Few months back, the same guy was urging the US government within US, on the Capitol Hill, to declare Pakistan state sponsoring terrorism.
Yes.
And I think it is our fault. Why should we accept him as a special representative with that kind of venom in his heart and mind? Why should we allow him to even enter Pakistan?
Zalmay Khalilzad, the problem is that, first of all, you should not grant him visa.
That's what I've said.
That this man is not acceptable. So once he has come here in that capacity, then you've accepted it. Simple.
For me, he's a persona non grata. He should not be entering Pakistani space at all. Why should he be entering?
Person is so venomous, your rights, should not be entertained. Simple.
So I think we
Last 30 seconds, sir, please.
We should learn to call spade a spade. Speak with confidence. We are a very resilient nation. We are a nation full of talent. We are a nation which has the most brave armed forces of the world. We have the strongest punch that the armed forces need to have. What are we afraid of? The internal polarization, the internal petty politics, and the weak economy due to the plunder. That is our weakness.
Absolutely.
Until and unless we overcome these 3 major weaknesses.
All right, sir. All right, sir.
So we can't have our voice.
Right. We need to. So
Before we
a
start
lot
the
of,
Kashmir.
there's so many ways to tackle the issue. Provided there's a will, there's a way. So last 15 seconds, please, concluding remarks.
Yeah, I think as Brigadier Sahab has said that we should, put our act together as a nation, as a country, as a state. We are, at very one of the weakest moment again. Like we need, a loan from IMF to survive. Otherwise, we will go bankrupt. And such a huge population. Imagine this, is a country with a nuclear arsenal going bankrupt. What will be the consequences
that
of that?
the problem. But anyway, so let's see where it leads. But a lot needs to be done. There is a lot of effort that is required, sir. We have to put our own house in order first, and then we have to look outward. Anyway, sir, thank you very much, Brigadier Sahab. It was a pleasure having you, sir. And that's all we have for this week. I'll see you on Monday, inshallah. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz from our side.